So you're on your farm, you're on your own, you're isolated, you're vulnerable. If something happens and then you're attacked, who's going to help you? I don't see anybody. That's why you got to help yourself. These are the 5 keys to staying safe on a farm. Your 5 keys to farm security. Hi guys, welcome back. It's Kevin. It's been a while since I've been here, but I'm looking forward to really working a lot on this channel, putting up a lot of videos. I've changed how I want to do things, changed the name, and I know exactly where I'm going, so look forward to a lot of videos. If you do like my videos, you like this video, some of the past videos, please like and subscribe. Hit the buttons like and subscribe. It helps me grow, helps me get my message out there. So let's get to today's message. These are the 5 keys to farm security. I stay on a farm. You can see behind me the lands of the farm. I've stayed here my whole life, and I'm still alive. So obviously I know a few things about farm security, and I have been lucky. Now in South Africa we hear a lot about farm attacks. I personally know someone who was murdered on their farm, a friend of my dad's, and I'm going to incorporate some of the lessons. I'm not going to go into the specifics. I don't want to open up wounds or anything like that, but let's just see how you can stay safe on a farm. It's not as dangerous as people think, but as long as you are looking after yourself and you're fully aware of what's going on around you, you can keep safe. Before we even get into step 1, let's just talk about mindset. It's all about mindset. The things I'm going to go through with you today is just the foundation phase. If you have the mindset of nothing's going to happen, I'm not worried, bad things happen to bad people, I'm a good person, that's not the right mindset. You need to be alert. You need to know what's going on, not only on your farm but in the community around you, and you need to be ready for whatever happens. So let's get started with key number 1. Okay, so key number 1 to farm security and farm safety is always be armed. Like I said, there's no one really to help you, so that the chances of the police or even private security getting onto your farm in time to actually stop an attack is not really possible. It's not going to happen. Small chance of that happening unless you're locked in your house and your house can prevent people from entering. You need to take care of your own defense. You need to respond to the attack personally, and for that you're going to need to be armed. So if you have a firearm, carry your firearm as often as possible on the farm. Get a good holster, a good belt, a good pair of pants. That's important. And carry your firearm with you as often as you can. Then when a farm attack happens, if you're surprised with something, you can react with your firearm, which is generally the best thing to react to another firearm. So if you're attacked by guys who have guns, obviously the best thing to have is your own gun. That being said, not everything is all about firearms. If you have a firearm and you're attacked by a guy with a stick, unless he's like about to beat you to death and you can prove your life was in danger, you're going to struggle to legally be able to use that firearm. You can only use a gun when your life's in danger. There's a very limited number of circumstances where you're legally allowed to use a firearm. I'm not only talking about shooting people, but once you draw that gun out, if the courts want to look at that in an irresponsible way, you can lose your right to own that firearm. You can be imprisoned yourself, even without shooting someone. If you use a firearm recklessly when the law says it wasn't warranted, you're the one who's going to be in trouble. So in addition to carrying a firearm, you also need to try and carry something that's non-lethal, that's going to increase your chances in a fight or a confrontation, but it's not going to be a lethal thing. And the thing I always think about with this, and the best thing, is tear gas or pepper spray. If you're a farmer, even if you're not someone who's big and strong, if you pepper spray someone, your chances of coming out on top in a physical confrontation are much better than just trying to use your fists. So when I say always be armed, obviously number 1, try and carry a gun. Number 2, carry pepper spray, even a knife in the pocket. It's much easier than carrying a gun. I'll go into the problems with carrying a gun now, but just have something in your pockets, whether it's a little knife, a can of tear gas, maybe you're carrying a firearm on you, especially if you're out in the lands. Always be armed, always be ready, because you're not going to have time to respond in a way that you can go and run and get the gun from the safe in time to deal with an attack. So let's talk about why can't you be armed with a firearm at all times. The main thing is just it's too heavy and too uncomfortable. I like to wear shorts and a t-shirt, and it's kind of difficult to carry a gun when you're wearing shorts and a t-shirt. So you have to structure your clothing around wearing a firearm. Whenever you sit, the firearm kind of digs into you. It can be uncomfortable, especially when you're doing it for long periods of time. So a way to get around this, or not to get around it, but you have to realize that, okay, as much as I'm going to carry a gun as often as possible, there will be some times when I won't have a gun on me. That's just the way it goes. You know, you can't take a dump. I mean, you could take a dump with the gun on your belt, but there's always going to be a time when you've got your pants down and you don't have a gun. So in those situations, you need to just be aware of your surroundings and be aware where you're going to go and what are you going to do if suddenly you look around and there's attackers. I look over my corner, oh, there they are, what am I going to do? So have some weapons, and I don't mean like firearms because they need to be either on you or in a safe, but like sticks, pick handles, machetes, tear gas, whatever, at hand. Don't have it out in the open where someone else can grab it and use it against you, but have sort of caches or stashes of sticks and poles and things at hand around the farm in various places, so that I can just quickly run, get a pick handle, something, and I'm able to defend myself at least in a sort of fight, physical confrontation kind of thing. So step number one, guys, key number one to farm security: have caches, be alert, and always be armed. Okay, so key number two to farm security is fortifying your home and your farm. Most attacks happen at night. They're kind of the same thing as urban home invasions or home robberies. The only real difference is the house is on a farm. So you need to have very strong doors, wooden doors that are thick, not these little thin wooden doors that can be broken through, metal doors, and multiple doors. You know, here's some scenery. Here's a scene of Mexican police trying to break through a metal door. Okay, it's a very strong door, but there's only one door. So if you hit one door long enough with a hammer or with something heavy, you're going to get through it. So you need to have multiple doors. You have a security gate in front of a metal door, in front of a wooden door, and that's your first line of defense. Then you need to layer your defense. So if you have a strong outside door, that's not the end of it. Even if you have like a bank vault on the outside, someone will get through. If you put enough time on a bank vault, you'll get through. So it needs to be this layered defense. As they come through the front door, they get into the kitchen, there's another door that's locked. Then they must get through that door. They get through the kitchen, they go into the passage, there's another door that's locked. Then all the bedrooms are individually locked. A guy here wants to break in and commit a farm attack, he has to break through 6 doors. That's a long time. You know, these guys are good at using their crowbars, they're good at getting in, but like breaking through 6 separate doors without something going wrong, that's a different story. So have as many doors as possible and have those doors as strong as possible. Fortify your home. Okay, so the layered defense shouldn't only be on the property in the house itself, it should be around the property. Keep your farmhouse separate from the rest of the farm. If you can, fence off the farmhouse with high fencing, palisade, electric fencing, razor wire, something like that. We haven't been able to do that personally, but that's just a matter of cost. Obviously fencing is expensive. This area is fenced off, but it's not a very high fence. But in a perfect situation, we would get much better fencing. This whole farm area would be properly fenced off with lighting, and there would be another layer that someone has to get through. We've got a lot of layers, with places pretty secure, but you can always get more secure, and that's myself included. So secondly, when it comes to fortifying your home, you need to have burglar bars. It's pointless having a bank vault door and then a guy just comes through the window because there's nothing, it's just a piece of glass. So you need to have burglar bars on your windows, and they need to be strong burglar bars. And once again, like I said, the room should be individually locked if possible. So even if someone comes through the window, he comes through the burglar bars, then he's in a locked room. He still needs to get through that door, to get into the passage, to get through another locked door. You can see what I'm saying. So as the guy breaks in and he's struggling through these series of doors, you can get your firearm, your crossbow, your tear gas, whatever it is, and you can respond. And on that vein, sorry, we'll go back. You need to make sure that your garages are locked. and that any tools or any outbuildings and that are also locked. A lot of theft and then on farm occurs at night, and it's not always violent theft. Sometimes they just break in, they steal cars, they steal motorbikes, tractors, anything that's they can get their hands on. So if you have all your possessions and that in your house and that's all secure, but you've got an unlocked garage and the cars are just sort of parked around the yard, that's also a very dangerous thing. So have your cars in parked garages, have your tools in locked garages, lock everything, have everything behind fencing, and fortify your property as much as you can. That's key number 2. Alright guys, so key number 3 to keeping your farm safe is beware the enemy within. Now this one is a little bit different. It's not as cool as the first 2, but it's just as important. Like I said, I know someone who was killed in a farm attack, and let's just say that he, in all likelihood, let the people who killed him into his farm or into his house, let them in the front door. So we're not 100% sure what happened, but it doesn't look like it was a forced entry. This guy had a seriously secure farm, and whoever killed him knew him, and he let them right in the front door. So let's get to it. Beware the enemy within. A lot of times it is an internal threat that happens on farms, whether it's one of your workers, whether it's some disgruntled employee, some disgruntled family member. The notion of this external farm attack, it does happen, but generally speaking, the attackers will want insider knowledge. They'll want to know, is it worth my while? What's on the farm? Where is it? And this kind of knowledge can only be gotten in from the inside. So with that in mind, you need to keep your valuables hidden and your firearms and anything that is likely to be stolen. Don't display it openly. Don't have your four-wheelers parked out in the open. Don't have your car, BMWs, just parked wherever, and jewelry all over the house, and you're inviting everybody in to come and look. You're opening yourself up for an intruder and for someone who has bad motives. Not everyone, people will smile in your face, but that doesn't mean they're thinking good things necessarily. And with allowing people into your home, you need to think about your domestic workers. They may be trustworthy themselves, you may have a long relationship with them, but you don't know everyone they know. They may have a brother or a son or a boyfriend or someone who's just come out of jail, and she's innocently talking about what the people she works for has, and this guy hears it, and all of a sudden he thinks, okay, you're gonna let me in, and we're gonna go and help ourselves to your boss's possessions. So you need to be aware of who you're letting into your home, what they see, what they know, where everything is, and limit that as much as possible. Beware the enemy within. And with that in mind, don't give out keys and alarm codes to domestic workers. And if possible, and I'm not trying to be like a hard-ass guy, but if possible, don't have people living on your property unless they're your family, unless you want them there. If a domestic worker can travel in when you need them, that's better than having them live on the property. And don't be handing out keys or anything, because very often with a farm attack, like I say, it's an internal thing. You've got all these locks, you've got all the security, but the person who killed you had keys, so what difference does it make? Or the person had keys and gave them to somebody else, and that person is not someone who you want to bring into your home. And it's not only domestic workers or anything racial or ethnic, it happens across the board. Your daughter, you can be a conservative farmer, your daughter's dating some dodgy guy, he's like a crack addict or something. You bring him into the home, he has a look around, he thinks, okay, well, the next time I need a score, I'm going to rob my girlfriend's parents' place. And then you catch him in the act, and it leads to somebody dying. That can happen. So beware of who you let into your home. Be somewhat paranoid about it, actually. You must have a good relationship with your workers, your employers, your employees, and the people in your community. Like I said, very often, it's not a random attack. People know you. When Eugene Blanche was killed by his workers, he was abusing his workers. If you abuse people, you can expect that abuse is going to come back at you in some form or other. So you need to be good to people, respectful to people, and hopefully you'll get that respect back. So key number 4 then, guys, is intelligence and communications. You need to know what's going on around you. Very often people they live in this sort of bubble. You get tunnel vision. They're only thinking about their wife and the fighting that they're doing and all the da-da-da-da, and they look and there's someone pointing a gun at them and they're like, how did this guy even get you? And by then it's too late. So you need to be aware of what's going on around you. That doesn't only mean me looking over my shoulder constantly. It means me keeping abreast of the local crime trends. Go on a Facebook in your town, and there's probably like a community policing forum group or something along those lines. Maybe security company in the town, maybe it's your police. They have like a local group in which they report on crimes. And don't sort of obsess with it, but just keep abreast about what's going on. You know, if there's a outbreak of violent farm invasions in your area and you didn't know about it and you didn't read about it, that's kind of negligent on your part, because then when these guys come onto your farm, you could have done something, but you didn't have the intelligence. You were too much in your bubble. So you need to keep abreast about what's going on in your area. Local crime trends, general things. You know, maybe there's a car that's been involved in a number of attacks, like a red Uno or something, and you see this red Uno driving up and down. That gives you a bit of a chance to respond, as opposed to always having to react, and usually it's too late by then. And beyond keeping abreast of crime trends, you need to know what's going on your farm. Patrol your farm, physically patrol it. That doesn't mean walk around with an R4 and a headgear, helmet, and looking like Rambo, upsetting your neighbors, scaring everybody. Just go for a walk on your farm. We walk our dog Andy a number of times on the property. Generally, we'll be carrying a stick with you, just because in case you come across a stake or something like that. That's another thing. Always be armed. Carry a walking stick. Doesn't look like a weapon, but it can be used as a weapon. And patrol your farm, because if people are planning an attack, they may leave signs. It's a bit of a cliche about the sort of bottle that's placed in a certain area, but there may be signs. Someone may have sat on your property smoking a cigarette or something, watching you, and they leave the cigarette butt behind. And because you're patrolling your property, because you're walking, you're just generally keeping your property under your eyes, you see the cigarette butt, and now you think, okay, I must keep my eyes open, something's going on. So, like I say, just patrol, but don't make it look like a patrol, just walk your property. And this goes for squatters, loose animals. Check your fences, just be abreast, keep a daily update on what's happening on my property. Is there a hole in my fence? Are there weird footprints? Some sort of, you know, like when I've walked along at the back of the farm there, beyond our property, I once saw the remains of a bunch of copper wires. And we know that there's copper wire thieves in the area. So you could see that that's where they cut the wires and then they pulled the plastic off. So you kind of, just by walking and looking around, you can see the signs of crime in your area and you can respond effectively. All right, guys, and then finally, key number 5 is master the darkness. A lot of attacks do happen in the day. I mean, I could be walking here filming this and the guy's just behind me and that happens. But most attacks happen at night. So you need to take the advantage away from the attacker, the advantage that he has at night time, and have your area well lit. Have outside lights. Don't let there be dark corners on your house where people can creep up to your house unobserved and then prepare to attack you. Have all 4 corners of your house lit at night. Have your fence areas lit, your garden area lit. The area surrounding your house, farmhouse, should be completely lit at night, and that's just like a given. Beyond that, you should have a good torch, like a really powerful torch. If you do need to go out, obviously you must be armed with a gun at least, or a crossbow at least, if you're going out at night. Have a good torch. If you can afford night vision or those kinds of things, do that, and it just gives you an advantage that you can take away from the attacker. Keep yourself safe, keep your family safe, keep your property safe. And that ultimately, guys, is what we're all about. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and watch the next one. These are going to be coming out a lot more often. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you then.